When we start live stream.
Yep.
I don't know, but I need to get that. I don't know, because it don't.
So I need to mute, right? And Tina's needs to be muted so we don't get feedback, right? So, okay. Hmm?
We're just missing North. And Grace.
Not the same.
Does anybody have a son? Messenger?
Because I don't know.
So I sent your posters there.
Switch.
Yeah, no, it's okay. And then in the mat. Sarah, Courtney, Grace, Tina, Taylor, Abby, and I'm gonna wait a couple for Lauren and Grace. So I probably need to tell them that if I talk, will they hear me?
I've got this mic muted right now, so.
I can unmute this one and
Yeah,
tell
you
them.
want me to talk on this one? Right,
Hey, guys. So I am getting ready to get things started. We're just waiting for Lauren and Grace. Okay?
Okay.
Grace is still here, right? That's what she told me.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. I haven't, I'm just very sensitive.
Lauren, you want to say? So we're on the second floor in Alberts. I'm gonna go ahead and get started and if you're, a little bit further down in the presentation. Okay, so we'll see you in a few minutes. Bye-bye. She's on the right. Okay. So guys, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Okay. John, I will gonna start.
okay, well, it's live streaming.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think. it should be
So welcome to everybody on the live stream and welcome to everybody here on campus. I am so excited that we've gotten to this point of semester in spite of all the ups and downs. But you guys have done a remarkable job and I'm really, really proud of you. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and each of you should introduce yourself and then talk about your project. And John will mute the camera so that it's on you while you're presenting. We'll do question and answer individually afterward, and you guys can walk over. Yeah.
Is that standing up or sitting down or?
However you're comfortable. So I'll turn it over to Tina first, John. I was about right.
Okay, hi, my name.
Wait.
Okay. All right. Hi, my name is Christina and Jimmy. My senior project was on law enforcement wellness resources. Law enforcement officers face stress and trauma on a daily basis. It affects them physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Tragically, due to that stress, law enforcement officers live an average of 21 years less than the average American citizen. It not only impacts them, but it also impacts their families. Sure, that makes it easier. The impact they deal with doesn't just affect them, but it also affects their families with secondary trauma. There's about 2,600 law enforcement officers in the state of Maine. That means that there's thousands of people that are impacted by the trauma that they go through as they go through critical incidents. They face an average of 800 critical incidents in their lifetimes, whereas the average person only faces 2. So, as you can see, they are impacted by their mental health, and they're also impacted by the family and physical health and financial health. There's a stigma still associated with mental health and first responders. They're supposed to be strong. They're supposed to be able to handle anything. Those superheroes that fly in when we need them. They're not supposed to have weakness. So they rarely try to get help. In fact, I know officers right now that really need to get help and they're not. So they also are affected financially. Often most of them have 2 or 3 jobs in order to make ends meet, because especially in Maine, we don't get people a lot. So what I ended up doing was creating resources for them to find. In Maine, there's no one place you can go in order to get resources for officers and for their families and for their agencies that kind of incorporate all of the different resources that they need. I'm personally a 24-year veteran spouse. And so I can see firsthand the impact of trauma and stress on families, as well as the resources that they need. Often they're coming to me and asking for help, for guidance, and I have to try to figure out where to show them, whether it's counselors, whether it's the financial resources, whatever it might be. So what I did was I ended up putting together a resource booklet, a resource website, and put on a resource conference for law enforcement officers and for their families. I worked in conjunction with National Alliance on Mental Illness, the Maine chapter, NAMI Maine, as well as an organization, How to Love Our Cops. So it's based out of California, but it's a national organization. NAMI Maine is a national organization with state chapters that, quote, provides advocacy, education, support, and public awareness so that all individuals and families affected by mental illness can build better lives. They have an officer wellness program led by Hannah Longley. She's a LCSW, and that's who I work with, both with resource booklet and with conference. How to Love Our Cops is also a national organization that has a similar focus. Their mission statement states that we equip, educate, and encourage law enforcement families to thrive relationally, emotionally, and spiritually. The organization has a state liaison program with a contact person in each state that gathers resources together. And so Vicki Newman is their organization head. She founded the organization, and that's who I had come speak at the conference. I worked with various other spouses from around the state, from various agencies on a state and local level. I did that on purpose because while it's rural here, I worked with city cops to make sure that the needs of both rural and city aspects were covered. First thing was the resource list. I worked in conjunction with NAMI Maine and Hannah with that. It can be emailed out still being added to. It's 16 pages long. In fact, today I found even more resources to add to it, so it's an ongoing project.
Various other spouses are on state.
No problem. This can be emailed out, it can be sent out, it can be given to people in the academy as a resource. There's links in it as well as just books, organizations, national ones. We tried focusing on state level, New England level, and then national level in order to make sure that they had everything they need. The next thing was the website. This is able to be accessed 24/7. It has all the same resources, but it's access 24/7. They don't have to ask anybody for it. All they need to know is about it. And it has all the links in there. It can be shared by social media. It can be shared privately. It can be shared publicly. And again, it has state, New England, and national resources. The other thing, the last one that I did was the conference on April 9th. We held a conference down in Waterville, Maine. It was open for law enforcement officers, for their significant others, for chaplains, for counselors. We had a really good turnout. Vicki Newman and her husband, Brent Newman, he's a retired highway patrol out of California chief. They came and they spoke on the traumas of law enforcement. They spoke on wellness. They spoke on marriages, and they spoke on children and the trauma that they go through in law enforcement families. Then we also had a panel that shared of peers here in Maine. We had a Hannah Longley as a social worker, licensed clinical social worker. We also had a program, the Warrior Path, which is a resource that anybody who's gone through a critical incident can go to in order to get help, especially if they're experiencing any PTSI injuries, disorders, anything like that. We also had Tim and Heidi Hinton. He was the officer shot in the line of duty 3 times back in 2019. And he and his wife shared what it was like. He's no longer going to be an officer. He's retiring in 2 months. He tried going back on the road and was unable to do so, as well as one of the officers involved in the incident. And then we also had a law enforcement officer, a state trooper, and his daughter also on the panel. And she was able to share what it's like as now a young adult, what it was like living as a law enforcement child. That was so emotional. Seeing that it was my husband and my daughter who was on that panel.
Who just graduated with high honors in psychology.
Yeah. In order to make sure that these resources were done well and can be changed and modified as needed, we had evaluation that was sent out for the resource list as well as the website. I had a few other spouses look it over, as well as an evaluation sheet during the conference. Some of the information that we gleaned back from them was that the firsthand experiences, the feedback, and the advice from the speakers was real, it was honest, it was right to the point, it was intentional. The marriage segment was great. It didn't beat around the bush, and it also helped understand what law enforcement officers go through on a daily basis. We had one woman who said she has a teenage daughter who struggles with the same characteristics described during the training there, and it made her think differently about the way she might be handling things. She thought it was just normal teenage girly distress, and she realized very quickly that it's secondary trauma. Some suggestions that they suggested were to allow panelists to be asked questions. We didn't allow panelists to be asked questions. We had prepared questions because this was the first time that the Waterville officer and his spouse had taken questions about the incident or been public with the incident, other than at the sentencing that had taken place 3 weeks before. So they were uncomfortable just being asked any questions, as was my daughter, because this is the first time she's ever given her testimony about what it's like being a law enforcement daughter. So we held that. Afterwards, though, they were like, we can take this, we can do this. So next time we do this, and there's going to be a next time we've already been asked, they're going to be able to answer questions. They want more information for significant others and keep offering classes. One thing is that our officers go through an 18-week and a 12-week, 2 academies, and then they have a 40-week FTO program. So a field training officer program where they get trained by another officer. It lasts over, the whole process lasts over a year, plus it's about a year for them to go through just getting hired, whereas their spouses get absolutely no training whatsoever. They have no idea what the changes are that their officers are going to experience. The kids have no clue what's in store for them. So the significant others are just begging for information and for training. They ask that future topics include dealing with social media, news and kids, the kids and the peers, dive into hypervigilance, what that is and what it does to their officers, have classes for children as well, and also dealing with law enforcement mood swings due to a lack of sleep, shift work, etc. So this was an extremely personal, obviously, project for me. It was extremely necessary. I even had somebody I was just in Florida this past week for my daughter's graduation, and I had two spouses reach out to me and ask for information from that conference so that they could get some help. So this is an ongoing project for me. It's not going to stop anytime soon. We have law enforcement families that are just looking for resources and it's needed. Special thanks to Hannah Lumber Cops, Hannah Longley with Maine, and Tim Haiti Hinton, the Waterville PD officer. I've included these references in case anybody would like to have more information about it. And if you have any other questions, feel free to ask away. Contact me anytime. Thank you.
Good job. There will be time for questions after everybody presents. I think it's the smoothest way to do it. Also, John, I realized we didn't log into Zoom on that one so that people here could see the Zoom people. So who did that for me on the other computer? Was it you, Tina? Could you log in on this one? Could you just kind of get the Zoom up? Thank you so much. Actually, one of our Zoom students is next up to present, Maggie Freeman. Is in Florida, and once we get her password.
Wait, is that a login password for the computer?
Yeah, Amanda Strand.
No.
I got the other user.
Hold on. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll do a song and dance here. Before we dive in, while we're waiting to get Maggie up to present, there's something I would like to say to each of you. I know that doing this during COVID was not easy. There were so many obstacles you had to overcome, but you all rose to the occasion. I want to personally thank each of you for the effort you put in to make your project a success. And you're leaving a legacy for the community with each of the things you've done that will have an impact for many years to come. So I'm very proud of you and I appreciate everything that you have done to make this semester a success. So, round of applause to yourselves because you've been just changed. And I'm gonna miss you. So Tina will be pulling Maggie up if we could do instead of gallery view, presenter view. I think that'll make it go more smoother. Should I skip to the next person while we're waiting for that to work?
I would say maybe for the next person to save time.
So who was the next person? I think it was me. Was it you, Brielle? Okay, so John will go over here by the door for Brielle. I think I probably need to give in and sit down. Somebody cut for this one. I'm just trying to get that out of the. Grace, you're over there next. All right, I think we can get started with the data. Are you sure? John, you got the one. Oh, take your mask. When you present, take your mask.
So my name is Brielle Davis, and my senior project involved funding Mcphail Port's water access infrastructure. For my senior project, I partnered with Marsha Hayward in the Mcphail Port Town Office, where she serves as a town clerk and the town treasurer. She guided me in the process of applying for a grant to fund a community project. To start the project, I did some research on grants myself to just get a basic understanding of what grant applications look like and what applying for them entails.
Yeah.
Following this, I discussed the intended project with Marcia so that I could have an understanding of what sort of goals the project had so that I could think of those when I was picking a grant to apply for. The intended project was to renovate and restore the Pettigrew Point boat landing. So it was important for me to understand the layout of the land for the project in order for me to convey that information in community discussions and apply it to that application. After finding the grant, I became familiarized with the requirements that grant had specifically, which entailed getting letters of support from community members, collecting photographs, creating a narrative, and explaining the ways that the boat landing serves our community. When applying for a grant, you're expected to justify the way the money is planned to be used. So for part of my project, I learned about those. A well-known way that the boat landing is used is for the lobster fishermen. It's where they put their boats in the water. It's probably the most used that way, but the landing can also be used for other aquaculture purposes and for recreational purposes. UMM has taken groups of students out on kayaking trips. The Maine sea salt company harvests salt from the landing, and the Navy has full access to the landing if they need it. And there are a number of other ways it serves the community. For the level of need, the town selectmen has said that it's an extremely needed project. There are things that need to be fixed, and it's one of Machias Port's most valuable economic assets. So we applied for a grant that would prioritize projects that consider rising sea levels and saving jobs, because the project raises the road and saves jobs. Before applying for the grant, I attended a town meeting and received permission from the town selectmen to proceed with the project. The project did not come without challenges. When I went to the town meeting right before I gave my presentation, some other community members were having a debate over cleaning issues, which made it even more nerve-wracking for me to present something that had to do with this community's water life. One of my least favorite challenge was halfway through the semester, I had to find a new grant to apply for because there was a complication. So I met with Dr. Lori, I met with Marcia, and we talked about the different options for how I could complete my senior project. And eventually Marcia and I found a new grant that we could apply for. And so we met and went over the adjustments that we needed to make and made the adjustments and set the grant up. So something that worked really well for my senior project was the coordination and communication with my community partner. Marcia was almost always available and she was super helpful. Another positive outcome for my project is the experience I gained involving grants and small scale projects. Other accomplishments include things like being able to find another grant and meeting the deadline in time, making connections to gather over 12 letters of support, and getting the approval of the town selectmen. Honestly, I would not do much differently in this project. There are definitely challenges, but they all offered me something to learn from them. There's one thing I would do differently, which is understand exactly what the project is and where it's taking place a little bit sooner than I did, because at one point in the project, I thought I was talking about a different piece. But luckily, I figured that out before it caused any issues. Thank you for listening.
Yes, and with grants, that's not always something you can say. So I was really proud of the outcome on this one. So Kim, thank you for stepping up.
Okay.
Can we stop? If somebody could help you figure out how. Push it, maybe? I think if you push it, it turns it off. Like punch it.
It's all, it says it's all.
Oh, it does? Oh, okay.
We don't need to resort to mine.
Well, I like punching things. So do we still not have Maggie?
Not yet. I
Okay,
gotta log in.
so we're working on that. Who, does anybody remember who I had next?
Next is Sarah.
Sarah. We need the computer for Sarah too. So who's after Sarah?
Julie?
Julie, yay. So Julie is right here in front of you, Joan. We'll go to Julie while we're doing that. Thank you. Can I?
No, that's not.
Okay. So John, Julie's right here. She'll go next while we're trying to get the Zoomies in. And remember, guys, speak low.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It's a projection. I have to remember to do it. Otherwise, it sounds like I'm mumbling, especially with a mask.
So let me know when you're ready. For my presentation, I did recovery resources in Washington County, Maine, and Julie Smith. I chose to do this project because my goal after college is to work with residents in Washington County that suffer from addiction. I wanted to do something that would assist people in this demographic and their families. I began my project by researching the differences and the challenges between larger cities across America and rural American locations. Me being from a rural location, I knew things would be different, but seeing and reading the actual documentations and statistics surprised me even more and made me realize I wanted to do something more to help. In my research, I found even though the opioid mortality rates are not disproportionately higher in rural America, rural areas face unique infrastructural and social economical challenges. These challenges include fewer clinics, hospitals, less access to mental health services, and drug treatment and prevention programs and reduction programs. In the terms of social factors, this stigma in rural areas, family ties, community interactions create important challenges for rural communities. Even though the stigma is not unique to rural communities, it can be more pronounced in small towns. These are towns where everybody knows everybody else. And you can sometimes
Try to. We have to turn it off on the computer. Okay, so this is where I think. Gotta love technology. Just looking for we could do something.
Let's do it.
All right, you're able to get it.
Yay, okay, keep going, Julie.
All right.
Thank you for your patience.
All right, now where it was. Rural communities and the stigma sometimes can cause people to discontinue treatment or not even bother to go into treatment. I wanted to bring attention in my presentation. I brought attention to a few facts that I found that I was really interested in, and I thought people should know. One of the photographs that I collected were from the U.S. Census of Disease Control and Prevention from 2017. And figure one in my presentation, you can see the statistics from the northeast of the United States. That section of the graph shows the opioid mortality rate for 2016. Rural areas had 21 deaths per 100,000 residents. In large cities had a rate of 17 deaths for every 100,000 residents. In figure 2, it shows, I also want to bring your focus to the northeast section of that. And it's to present the increase in opioid deaths between 1999, and 2016. The larger cities had a 199% increase between 1999 and 2016. Rural communities had 1,100% increase during that same time frame. And also in the figure 3 that was in my presentation shows the percent of drug overdoses involving specific opioids. Prescription drugs spiked in both rural and city locations between 2009 and 2011. With the rural communities hitting a high of 42% and the cities hitting a high of 37%. But they have been on a steady decline since 2011. What I really wanted to focus on that one there is that heroin use and overdose deaths due to heroin have increased 17% in rural communities, 5% in cities. And the synthetic opioid deaths have been on a similar rise in rural areas. In 2010, it was at 10%. By 2016, it was at 24% increase. And the cities, it started at 2010 at 4%, and by 2016, it was up to 32%. According to the National Vital Statistics Systems data, the percentage increase in drug overdose deaths in rural communities has increased by 325% from 1999 to 2015, surpassing 198% increase in larger cities. Drug abuse and heroin overdose have hit our small New England communities hard in the past 5 years. This issue affects the addicts as well as their families and friends in numerous ways. Facts that concern me. According to the Portland Press Herald on January 19th, Maine shattered its annual record for overdose deaths in 2021 with a total death of 636 deaths, a 23% increase just from the year 2020. When you look at Maine's expanded recovery center landscape map, which I have right here, you can see that Washington County has 2 hubs. When you look at southern Maine, that's multiplied by 10. So it shows the lack of resources in our county. Also, when it comes to Maine, Maine is also ranked 9th in all of the United States for children that are affected by the opioid epidemic. There's a huge concern, according to the national statistics of the United States. Maine has 38 people for every 1,000 that are affected by the opioid use. And that's 10,500 children just in the year 2017 that were affected by opioid use in the state of Maine. That's staggeringly high, considering out of all 51 states, we're 9th. In Washington County, according to the Washington County State Department of Health Center of Health Statistics, 65% of all deaths in Washington County are due to drug overdose. And it's been that way for the last 10 years. With learning all that there was for me to learn and all the things I learned by all the research, it really wanted me to make it easier for people looking to go into recovery. So for me, trying to solve that issue. And I started looking online, let's see what we have for recovery programs. You know how hard that is? It's tedious, it's exhausting. You get links after links, and half of them go to places that aren't even in Washington County, or they'll go to some spam site. And so I wanted to put together a site. It's called Recovery Resources of Washington County. It's at WinX/website. That's why none of you guys could get it if you checked, because I found out the link was not working right. And on that site, I talked to Lori about different programs to get advice on where to look. Abby, through the Community Care Collaborative, helped me find different resources. I sent out informational collection packets to every doctor's office, therapist's office, and I went to many, many locations. And tried to collect as much information I could about the programs they offered, the insurance they accepted, what the rules, the regulations, their guidelines, anything I could. And I put it all together. Because of me being technologically declined, I have no tech savvy whatsoever. I tried to do a social media page. It was too businessy, I couldn't figure it out. So I ended up putting together a blog. It's called Recovery Resources of Washington County, Maine. It's on the WinX site. On there, I listed for a blog for each item I was able to find for Washington County and all the different things that I could find through other programs, groups, challenges, people they could talk to, any kind of resource for families and the person looking for assistance getting into recovery programs. But I wanted to go a step further. I added forums for people to be able to communicate their troubles and the things they've gone through. A place for people to vent if they're having a bad day. And for people to be able to support them and give them advice, means of coping with the things they're doing for families and the addicts. I did send out about 15 emails to get a peer reviews on the website. Out of that, I got 3 back. And they were friends of mine that have also lost family to recovery, to addiction. And their advice was more forums for the family members. So I added on forums. One person suggested that sometimes someone doesn't know where to start when they want to share. So they had an idea of giving prompting in some of the forums. So I added in a couple of forums that this is how I'm feeling today. Doesn't mean I'm gonna feel that way an hour from now or tomorrow, but this is where I'm at right now. That way people can read other people's stories. A biggest thing for me was this I did because of the knowledge that I learned, because it's a lot worse than I thought. And because I lost my brother to addiction. And because of the lack of services here. So by putting this page together, I share it through my social media page. My friends have shared it through theirs. Also, Abby through Care Community Collaborative is going to put the link on their site. So hopefully it will get out there and it will continue and people can add through the forums or their chats of new information of things, even if I missed them. Thank you for your time. Anybody got any questions?
Thank you, Julie. That's an amazing job, and it was a big job. It was a lot of work to get it all together, and she pulled it off. I know at times she worried. So while we're switching to Maggie on Zoom, maybe we'll do a little musical chair so I get Lauren over here and you over there. Is that okay? Awesome. So Maggie is our next presenter, and Maggie is coming to you from Naples, Florida. And I will let her introduce her project and talk about what she did with her Creating Neighborhood Communities project.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
So you have, Maggie, you need to unmute you.
Ah,
Okay, this has to be.
can everybody hear me now? No.
How do I get it to?
Sorry, this is my computer, guys.
So actually, Sarah, you'll be up after Maggie so we can keep the Zooming going.
Okay.
All right, Maggie's up.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, let me get started here. So I'm Maggie Freeman, and I'm a graduating senior in the Psychology and Community Study program. And my project is entitled Neighbors. It became a way for people to make more meaningful connections during the pandemic. Communication now has changed, and many students went from learning in person to virtual learning. The rapid evolution and integration of technology in our daily lives forces us to keep up with changes that the government helped with by providing communication tools during the transition of people online learning during the pandemic. But even with proper technology and the proper tools for communication, it can be difficult to communicate online. When the pandemic started, my family and I were in the coastal city of Naples, Florida. And the pandemic changed a lot of circumstances for people, and many people found themselves staying longer in places than they normally would, especially in Florida and Southern Florida. With the internet at my disposal, I discovered a social media app called Nextdoor that connected people based on address. It's similar to Facebook, except the members also live physically in the same community. And the content is shared only with members of that specific community. I observed countless arguments and quarrels between people of different regions that found themselves in this area, and wondered if there was a way that I could create more harmony. I identified the need for members to make more meaningful connections based on similarities. So I created 3 groups based on regions from where people that were in Naples were coming from. Based on my own observations, out and about in town, seeing various license plates and observing the Nextdoor app and watching and reading where people were from, I created 3 groups: the New Englanders of Naples, Canadians of Naples, and New Jersey New Yorkers of Naples. Membership took off nearly immediately, especially with the New Englanders of Naples group. One stipulation that I had for people joining the group, because I am the administrator of the group and the groups are private, was that they leave politics out of the discussion. And I asked the members to just be kind and respectful of one another. The unintended effect of my project was that one member took it upon herself to start another group that's called Just Lunch for New Englanders of Naples. And once a month, she hosts an RSVP brunch or lunch for anybody that wants to attend. And the group is quite successful, with about 60 members meeting each month. My membership totals for the 3 groups are over 300, and every day I receive more requests to join. The New Englanders of Naples group in particular has almost 300 members in of itself. Members are from all over the United States, well, New England, New Jersey, New York, and Canada, but over 100 different places. The feedback I've received from the group has been really quite positive. On more than one occasion, members have expressed to other members, thanks for bringing back so many memories, because a lot of the connections are from hometowns that people may have been away from for quite some time or more recently. It's been really rewarding to see all the connections being made in such a positive and peaceful way. And it was really great to create these online communities for people to make more meaningful connections. Thank you.
And I think it was wicked fun for Maggie to do. So you'll be on the computer when we finish, for anyone who has questions. So with that, I'm going to go to Sarah and then Ashley, and I know that's a little bit out of order, but I think while we have the Zoom computer set up, we should stick with it to make smooth technology. So Sarah, you're up next.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. So my project was on the Psychology and Community Studies Advising Zine. My part in that project was to write a few articles for the advising zine, and the theme for it this semester is gaming. I wrote an article about the campus's gaming club. I wrote an article about the psychology of gaming. I did an interest poll for psychology majors, and I did an interview with Dan Qualls about his own gaming experience and interests. The interest poll that I did was to see what types of games, TV shows or movies, sports, etc. that psychology students have enjoyed, along with ideas for future issues of the advising zine and advocacy projects that students were currently involved in or currently interested in. My community partner for the project was the Psychology and Community Studies program, along with Lois Ann Kuntz, my supervisor. I was working on behalf of the program, providing content for the news zine, as well as other student success advisors. All right, so during the course of the semester, like when I reached out to my community partner, they were able to, when I got in touch with them, they were able to allow me to join the advising zine again, as I had previously done this for my internship a few years ago. So it was nice to be able to work on something again that I'd already done, but it also meant a lot to me because I was able to research a topic that means a lot to me as an individual. I personally love gaming, so it was good to go further in depth into a topic I loved. I mean, internet gaming has its ups and downs. Like, there's a lot of good things that can be associated with it, as well as some bad things, such as the fact that internet gaming can be addictive, but sometimes it can be hard to draw the line, whether it's a hobby or an addiction. In terms of my project, I feel like everything went smoothly. I was able to meet with my community partners pretty much every week. And I was also given a lot of good constructive criticism about my project. But one thing that I wish would have worked better were delays that were outside of our control when it came to actually publishing the advising zine for everybody to read. But I would say that for most of the semester, everything went well, and it all worked out in the end. So thank you very much.
Sarah's PowerPoint is on the wall over here to everybody's left. And I forgot to mention Maggie is over here to the left of Emma Jones, as well as Ashley's. And Ashley will be up next.
Dr. Lurie, do you want me to change this computer to have Ashley's face next to her?
Yeah. Thank you. I forgot to do that.
Hi. There we go.
Okay, you're up next. You need to say something, pop up, please.
What was that? I didn't hear you.
That's what I needed you to do. You're on.
Oh, okay. Hi everybody. I'm Ashley. Graduating senior. Finally, hooray. So my senior project that I did was at the Save a Life Recovery Resource Center located in Lincoln, Maine. My project specifically was about fostering social relationships for those in recovery from substance use disorders. Save a Life Recovery Resource Center is a nonprofit organization located in Lincoln. I completed my internship at this organization, job shadowing one of their recovery coaches there. Just a small snippet about recovery coaching. It is a peer-based program. You do have to complete a training course and an ethical considerations course, as well as job shadow hours to become an active recovery coach at a recovery resource center. Some of the things that Save a Life does is they host weekly meetings for those with substance use disorders, whether it's meetings specifically like Alcoholics Anonymous. They also have open meetings weekly, which is kind of more of a community discussion versus a strict itinerary that Alcoholics Anonymous specifically follows. They also host another meeting called Al-Anon, which is for loved ones who have someone they care about that has a substance use disorder. Save a Life also provides recovery coach services, access to trainings. They do keep Narcan on hand, and they also host other events that are open to the public, such as a weekly yoga class, a monthly art class that they are partnered with an art studio located in town, and also family-friendly holiday-related events. They host a trunk or treat. They do something for the springtime that's not necessarily related to Easter, but still something fun for the kids. And they also host a walk into recovery, which is a fundraiser that they do each year in June. So basically, the reason why I decided to do this project is very personal to me, because I am a person that has a substance use disorder. Just a disclaimer, I feel very comfortable sharing this information. I'm a very fierce believer in self-advocacy, and the more you talk about something, if you're comfortable, the less stigmatizing it can become. So I feel comfortable talking about this information. But a large part of recovery from substance use disorders requires one to let go of potentially harmful social relationships. There is a tendency to seek out connection from any available source, despite an awareness of the destructive nature of these relationships. That is a quote from Ingram in 2020. You can see that posted on my reference pages on the PowerPoint on the wall. So it's necessary for those in recovery to seek out healthy and positive social relationships. Support groups are a largely effective way in combating feelings of loneliness, because it provides a space for people to connect. Sharing and being open in these groups does facilitate a sense of this connectedness. And what I wanted to do was kind of nurture and explore those bonds created in a meeting to go outside that meeting. Because sometimes you can feel really connected to people in that 1 hour time span, but then you don't see them for a whole nother week. So I kind of wanted to explore that avenue. So what I did specifically was I hosted a social gathering during a regularly scheduled group meeting. This was to have members take time to focus on social interactions within the familiar group setting before trying to take it outside. I hosted this social event during the Circle of Hope, which is the open group meeting. They host it on Wednesday nights. It's just people coming together, talking about your weeks, the good, the bad, really just kind of an open support group. And we had food and beverages. We played games, specifically Taboo. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that game, but you work in teams. You try to get your other teammates to guess a word by giving them clues without saying specifically identifying clues. So it's fun. It's kind of a brain teaser. It got loud. We had a lot of laughs. This event was deemed a success by those in attendance. Group members enjoyed themselves, had a chance to interact in a fun way, and really just enjoyed being able to relax and have fun versus being the normal, how was your week this week? How are you doing with your recovery progress? Although those things are very important, it's nice to just relax and truly enjoy friendship. So the next step for this, because this is going to be a continuing project for me as well, is to host an event for members of different groups. So I did this with the people of Circle of Hope. And my next step is I want to do something that integrates the people who attend Alcoholics Anonymous and the people who attend Al-Anon, because typically the separate groups don't have a lot of chances to interact together. And I think it would be really important to bring people together and to really foster friendships in a way that everybody has a similar goal of enjoying themselves and being connected in environments that don't contain substances. Because unfortunately, alcohol is very ingrained in our social gatherings. So specifically in Lincoln, where I live, there's not a lot of social things to do that's not at the bar. And for people in recovery, being in a bar might not be the safest place for them to be. So we really just want to focus on fostering those social relationships in a safe space where people don't feel pressure to partake in substances. The final goal would be to host this kind of social event for all groups at least once a month to continue forming these bonds that are crucial to a healthy recovery journey. Thanks, guys.
And sometimes it's hard to do something like Senior Project when you are at such a great distance. But as you saw, Ashley's in Lincoln County. Sarah, I always forget where you are, but I know it's way up north. And Maggie is down in Florida. So it can be done. You can engage with your community no matter where you are. I'm very proud. So next up is Betty Slicer. Oh, yeah, sorry.
I tried to load it up.
It is muted.
No, the computer's not muted.
Make sure they're both muted.
So my name is Betty and my partner was Abigail Frank, and we collaborated with Just Maine for Just Us to start engaging youth in the political climate change and the effects that that has on the economy. And the goal of our organization is targeted towards youth. And that's to bring more awareness about about climate change and to promote voting in Maine's rural areas. And they focus on the age range of 15 to 30. And so what we wanted to do was to identify a network of young adults that would be willing to participate in paid vote work during elections, but to also see if these age groups would be willing to meet in like an educational meeting. So they could learn things like lobbying issues, contacting officials, and different ways to go about doing that. The way that we went about it was instead of like, we did a community circle environment, and we asked 5 questions about, do you have any concerns? What are some issues that you think are important that are affected by climate change? It's specifically towards the shoreline and how that affects fishing and other life in the water. So we did a community circle with the Washington County Democratic Group, which they provided several different responses. They were out of our community partners range. They wanted to focus more on the political side, but this was what we got from the Washington County Democratic Group was more towards our area. One gentleman said that in Rose Bluff, the beach is visited by more young individuals than it is the older generations. He sees young teenagers, school, like college students. He also sees families with their children out there. One gentleman suggested a grant program that would go towards high school science projects to get the younger generation involved and to utilize their ideas because they have such fresh opinions. Another concern was recycling. A lot of places locally don't have recycling. So that was some concerns with the locals. And then so we had some bumps in the road. We were unable to create that network or even find any youth individuals that would be willing to participate in paid vote work or attend educational meetings. We reached out to our community partner and offered instead to further this with Dr. Lori's interns and other capstone projects. The size of our community circle that we did launch, we were going to try to do 2 in classes, but we were unable to schedule them because we did it in the beginning of April. And we probably should have done that earlier in March, where in April, teachers are kind of gearing up for finals and class time is valuable time. But we ran into the size of our one community circle. There was very many people participated in that. We were having a hard time keeping up with people who were raising their hand because we were in Zoom. We were having a hard time documenting because the responses were coming in so fast and they were so opinionated. We also realized that our questions may have been too vague and may have produced off-topic conversations, recycling being one of those. But the ambitions of our project was very large scale, and we ran out of time to be able to complete that. So what we've done differently was to organize time more efficiently, so there would be more time for the community circles to be scheduled. And that goes back to maybe doing it earlier in the semester instead of so as the last part, maybe do it as the middle part. In-person community circles would have been so much better than virtual ones. Zoom's very hard to navigate, especially when the Democratic group is an older generation of individuals. And you know, I'm not technologically savvy. I'm 33, so at 63, I'm sure they're just navigating it. So we thought that the more specific classes, questions would have provided a less chance for it to just get off topic. So that was my community project.
Unfortunately, Abigail has COVID, and while she's on Zoom, it was a bit hard. So with that, I'm gonna switch to Courtney. She's over here in the corner, guys.
What's that?
Courtney?
Here, go ahead and sit down. I look for the character.
Are you gonna
Sit
sit
down that
here?
one.
Sorry, I can.
I don't know. You can also take this seat if you want.
She's spelling. It's loud.
Before you do, I'm gonna try something. I'm having some problem. The camera keep cutting. The feed keeps cutting out on the camera on YouTube. So I'm trying to.
Oh, no, we have to see Courtney's beautiful face. So that's gonna be critical.
Possibly, let me just see if I can do it for you.
Have a nice machine.
Actually, is he? I don't.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Courtney Kafka, and for my senior project, I worked with the EDGE program. For my project, I organized a recruiting booth and I designed a lesson plan, and my community partner was Isaac Barnett. The reason that I chose to work with the After School EDGE program is because we're in desperate need of people to work or volunteer for the program, especially in the Machias area. At the Machias school, they had to cut down the number of students they take in due to a lack of staff. Some interesting things I found throughout my research was, according to an 8-state study, just after only 2 years of regular participation in an after-school program, disadvantaged students are far ahead of their peers academically, compared to those who spend more time in unsupervised activities outside of school. Rural communities are experiencing a sharp rise in unmet demands for after-school and summer programs. There are a number of students who are left without an after-school program. In 2020, 24.6 million children stated that they would participate in an after-school EDGE program if one was available for them. I think that my project went well. I did have some people who were interested in working in the program for next school year. What I would have done differently if I could do this over again was get my flyer out a week before spring break. I would have also got a hold of Dan Qualls, the head of campus, to email my flyer out to the student body. And I also would have loved to get things organized earlier in the semester so people who wanted to could have worked during this school year. I am currently working at the After School EDGE program at the Harrington Elementary, and I work with some amazing staff and children, and it is a great program to work with. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. Camera, I pointed in that direction, we'll go to Mcphail.
I'm gonna stand so I can pick my nose. Sorry.
So I think we need to turn the camera down.
Great. Good afternoon, all. My name is Emma Mcphail. I am a senior graduating with a degree in psychology and community studies. And I'm so excited to get to share my senior project with you all. Over this past semester, I have partnered with Kids Corner in Bar Harbor to build a monarch garden for the kids enrolled at the preschool to enjoy. The first objective of this project was to create the physical garden. In order to do this, I built 2 6-foot by 2-foot planters, which we ensured were sturdy and weather resistant. I also filled the planters with rocks for drainage, soil, and of course, what is a garden without some flowers? And I chose milkweed and nectar plants to sustain the monarchs. The second objective was to educate the kids about pollinators and monarchs and why they are so important to our environment. I did this by making waysides containing age-appropriate information regarding monarch butterflies and pollinators, as well as questions for the teachers to ask the children. I also wrote a book, Learning to Fly, a child's field guide to monarch butterflies, which will be available in the classrooms at the center for the children to read. This book includes information about monarchs, such as their life cycle, their roles as pollinators, and a fun little activity in the back of the book for the kids to enjoy, butterfly yoga, which they can do on their own with visual aids, or they can practice as a teacher-led class activity. Now, this beautiful timeline over here looks completely different now than it did at the start of this project. Originally, I had believed I would start by building the planters and the waysides first, and then worry about the book and the flowers later. And I realized very quickly that it was very difficult to find space to build and to find lumber at our price point during the winter. So I actually chose to start off by working on the book and then proceeded to build the planters and create the waysides once the warmer weather rolled around. You'll see in this picture our raw materials for the project. And as you can see, the warmer weather gave us a beautiful spring day to start building. I included this photo of the materials before we started because I've been looking at my completed project and I'm just so amazed that that pile of rough sawn lumber turned into such beautiful planters and an even more beautiful garden. And while I knew from the start that this would turn out to be beautiful, I was a bit nervous because I had some people telling me that with the current price of lumber and DIY materials, this could turn out to be a $600 to $800 project, which is not what I wanted to cost the center. Which is part of why I'm so proud to announce that it turned out to only cost $357.25 for the whole project. When I added up the total cost, I was a bit shocked to see that we had kept the numbers so low, and I know that was not just because of my personal thriftiness and penny pinching. My partner Nick found a great deal on rough sawn lumber, which worked perfectly for this project, and after hearing about the goal for this project, some very kind folks at Frost Farms in Bar Harbor gave us a discount on the plants, and we even managed to get the soil donated. So here are those plants we got from Frost Farms. I purchased 2 honeysuckle plants and 2 red arrow plants, which will attract the monarch butterflies. And we have 4 milkweed plants, which will nourish the caterpillars. Did you guys know that it takes 1 milkweed plant to sustain each caterpillar? That it takes so much energy to support them as they make this huge transition from caterpillar into butterfly, and they eat near constantly to gain that energy. Now, I'm not gonna lie, when I first started this project, I kind of felt like one of those very hungry caterpillars. I was facing my last semester in school, a huge senior project to run, and in a few days, my very own transition from college student into college graduate. And I had no idea where the energy to do it all was going to come from. So thank goodness I didn't have to do it on my own. I was very lucky to have an amazing support system to work with through all of this. I've said it before and I will say it again, I am so grateful to have a workplace that supports and encourages me like Kids Corner does. My head teacher, Jennifer Pinkham, has listened and given valuable feedback as I've told her about this project, and Kids Corner's director, Lori Krupke, has been absolutely invigorating with her energy and her excitement. I also had a great deal of support from my life partner, Nicholas Sanborn, and my dad, Paul Mcphail. They both helped me take my plans for these planters and made them a reality. Without these people, I really don't think this project would have been possible, and they're part of what has made it so great. While I consider this project the very definition of success, it definitely had a few kinks. Before this project, I had spent all of 0 hours on building things, so I was a bit more reliant on other people's expertise than I would have liked to be. If I were to run this project again without all of the knowledge and experience that I've gained, I would definitely look to partner with someone who was invested in this project and had knowledge that could complement mine. It would have been nice to have a partner involved in planning who knew the difference between rough sawn and finished lumber. I also struggled a bit with the momentum on this project. This class started in January and I really wasn't able to get much done until April. which led to a lot of unnecessary stress and anxiety. In the future, I'll most likely wait until the appropriate season to start such activities, and in the meantime, I'll remember to breathe until we've gotten started. The last thing I would have changed about this project is the workload. It would have been fine to do this project on its own, but when you add in classes and working and trying to maintain some semblance of sanity, it could get a bit overwhelming. So I'm grateful that after graduation, I will have a bit less to juggle, and I foresee these projects becoming a lot easier to manage. Now, working on this project has brought such joy to my heart, and I'd like to leave you all with a quote that I hope will do the same for you. Forget not that the earth delights to feel your bare feet, and the winds long to play with your hair. Even though I am a teacher at Kids Corner, I still manage to learn something new every single day. And one of my favorite things that I've learned there is to have fun and to enjoy the little things. My hope is that this butterfly garden will do just that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And now we come over to Kayla. So you have to remember speaking.
Yes, I know. So my project was the Washington County Community Plaza. And what I did was a supply drive fundraiser to.
Did you get the camera on there? Sorry.
There you go. Okay. And what I did was a supply drive fundraiser to collect household supplies for individuals who find themselves in need. The beneficiaries were focused on anyone in Washington County and also trying to establish a community closet, kind of like the one in Ellsworth. Trying is the key word. What I did and how I did it, we placed donation cans at local businesses, and I provided my phone number for direct donations. We also made flyers and put them around to local businesses. I chose this project because Washington County is very limited in resources, and it makes it harder for people to find just the basic things to, live on. And studies have shown that individuals who are prepared to live independently are more successful. And I'm a case manager at Hurst Mental Health here in Machias, and I see it almost every day that people, go a lot of times without the basic necessities, and especially if they're moving like transitional housing. And if they don't have what they need, then a lot of times they're not successful. Another reason that I chose this was Washington County doesn't have an abundance of resources, as I mentioned, and it wasn't any different when I was growing up. Looking back and thinking about how my parents struggled, they could have really, used something like that. And then who helped me was Morgan Seeley Williams and also Dr. Lori. What worked and what didn't work. What worked was the partners worked really well together. Deadlines were met and plans were made beyond this project. We do plan on, moving forward with it. There was just a few bumps. What didn't work was donation cans were not as successful as anticipated. Due to unforeseen circumstances, communication was not the best, and securing storage for donations was unsuccessful.
But we got a lot of stuff.
We did, yeah, and that's something that I think we would change if I had to do it again. I would make sure that we had the storage before.
Good job. Thank you. I will throw in that for a little bit longer, we are taking like household items, and it's all kind of in my barn right now. And we will, once they have the transitional housing set up, we will move the things then. So we'll come to next here in the corner, then Emma, and then last, but certainly not least, Lauren. So
I'm just texting my mom to make sure she's watching.
Yep. Where'd you get your picture in the group? So we'll do go shopping then.
Okay, she's watching. Hi, Mom. Okay, so
introduce yourself.
So hi, my name is Grace Hurst. I'm a senior at the University of Maine at Machias. Which is awesome. I can't believe it. So my project was on teen mental health in the COVID-19 pandemic. I was raising awareness for teens. I love them because there's a huge statement of need for adolescents and raising awareness for their mental health because like between the ages of 13 and 18, teens are more susceptible to mental illness, such as like eating disorders, depression, ADHD, anxiety, OCD, etc. I have here, if you could see it, it's a graph from of teen suicide rates in Maine, and it is just completely like steadily increasing, and that's not good, and awareness like has to be raised. So I had the idea of getting in touch with one of the high schools here in Machias, and I wanted to set up like a display. So my objectives were adolescent mental health awareness. I wanted to provide information to the students. I wanted to make sure that students knew that their needs would be taken seriously. And I wanted to make sure that I established trust between students and their teachers, faculty, staff, etc. Because if there's not a feeling of trust, no one wants to like reach out. So my project description. So first step was to find a community partner to work with. And so I got in touch with Washington Academy. And because like it's a good school. It's a nice, like, it has a lot of students, a lot of international students as well. And I was going to create a display, and I was going to present it and set it up, and then they would have no choice but to look at it. So my project description. So I connected with Christine Morris. She's the school counselor at Washington Academy, and she got me the hookup. So she had some people that she knew over at NAMI, which is the National Alliance for Mental Illness. I thought it was. And so she got me some, she was like, tell me what you want and I'll get whatever you need. So I got a ton of pamphlets and information and just a bunch of like little literature things so the students could read it. And I made sure that I said for teens, because if you give teens something that's for like, that's just like facts and boring, no one's going to read it. They don't have time. So all the teen ones, they had a lot of really nice, nicely put and worded things, really easy, but also extremely informative. I read through all of them, and I got stuff for LGBT awareness. I got opioid addiction, eating disorders, teen depression, anxiety, generalized anxiety, and a couple other things. And wristbands, obviously, because that's what they like. They want something, like they want a little like fidget thing. So I got wristbands, and so it was really, really exciting. And I created my display. And so I had 2 poster boards, and I titled it "Mental Health Isn't Black or White," because I had one board was black and one board was white. So on the white board, I got these little like thumbtacks, and I tacked on every single thing that I had, so that like there's like a display. And then the other board had information, and I put it in like colorful like pens, like paint markers, and I put stuff up because I was like, yeah, it was really cool. I have pictures up here. And I let the display stay up from April 1st to April 15th, which was really cool because during the second week that it was up, that Wednesday, they had somebody coming in to give a talk about, it was one of the senators in, I don't know if he was from Maine or not, I can't remember, but his son had bipolar, and he gave a talk about that. And I thought that it was like, wow, Christine and I were like, this is perfect. So it like fit in with their little thing. So then I have some pictures of my display, and then I went in on April 12th, I think, and I stood by my my project in the lunchroom between 11 and 1, because that was when like their lunch period was, and Christine brought down chocolate, and so that's why the kids came to talk to me, not because they wanted to talk to me. So but it was very cool, because I had students come up and they looked at my display and they said, this is cool because no one talks about the other mental health stuff. They just talk about anxiety and depression. And I said, yeah, that's really, that's you're not going to get anywhere. Like if you're just talking about the same 2 things, you got to talk about them all and break the stigma. And so I also had faculty and staff come up to me. So I had I had 2 maintenance guys come up, and one of them looked at my project and he pointed to like 3 of the things on my board, and he said, I have that, and that. And I didn't figure this out till recently. And I was like, oh, really? Tell me more. So, and it was cool. And I had some teachers come up to me. And yeah, it was really exciting. And Christine stood by me. She's wonderful. She's a beautiful person. I love her. And yeah, so my special thanks, it wouldn't have happened without Christine. I wanted to thank Dr. Lurie as well for supporting me. And I wanted to thank the students at WA as like the most, because they're the reason why I do everything. So yeah, that was my project. I had so much fun making it. It was very artsy. So yeah.
And now we'll switch to Emma Jones.
Real quick, I just want to say, yes, there are 2 Emmas wearing white and black stripes, and we did not plan it. So, or yeah. Okay. Sorry, just got rid of this. Give me a second. So little background about my project. My mom has worked for Maine Family Planning for I think since 2017. So she kind of gave me the idea for this project. And also her working there has given me insight into just the attack that some of the legislation has had against family planning places in this country, and also just like an attack on assigned female birth people in this country. So that's kind of why I decided to do this project, because I thought it was important. My event or my project was hosting an event here on campus for the UMM students. And I did work with Maine Family Planning, specifically Marisa Wheel from Maine Family Planning. She's the Vice President of Development and Community Engagement. She is an awesome person. She has a lot of very intelligent insight into these issues. So it was really cool to work with her. My goal was to have an event on campus to raise an awareness of the services offered at the Machias Family Planning here in Machias. There's also a Calais Family Planning in Calais. And my event was held on Thursday, April 14th, so sorry. And some of the things that we provided for the students I brought, just because I thought it would be fun and interesting. So there were these medical kind of informational pieces. This one is just about the visits or different types of visits that you can get, and also the telehealth services that are provided. This one is specifically for transgender care and gender affirming care. And then this one is just an overall kind of what the services they have. And then also just like some fun little things that are brought, because we also did have a swag table. So this one has like a little condom on it, but it's not this because I think it's fun. Some, I can't get over here, but like LGBTQ pride and I love sex ed. And then also a pride family planning button. And that's just kind of like an example of what we did have. We had more than that. In doing research for my project, there's a significant disparity between the sexual health and reproductive health education offered and provided to urban areas compared to rural areas. It's like incredibly significant how different it is. And the model that's used to teach in rural areas is actually based on an urban model. So it's not tailored specifically to rural areas. So Washington County, Maine is the third least populated county in the state of Maine, but that doesn't mean that the education of reproductive and sexual health should be less than of urban areas. I think my event was actually pretty successful. We held it during the lunch period, so 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. in Kilburn, which is the dining hall on campus. We had an evaluation piece to it. Thank you, Lois Ann, for teaching me how to do that. We had about 40 students came through the dining hall during that period, and we had 13 students fill out the little questionnaire that I had. And I think that's pretty successful. So also kind of a little fun thing is that my event was held during STI Awareness Week, and the month of April is STI Awareness or STD Awareness Month. So just kind of a little fun little thing. Some things that I would have done differently, I definitely would have had Hope Shore, who is the Director of Student Life on campus, put my flyer or like put awareness in the weekly wave, so the students had a little bit more forethought. I did have a little flyer that I put out around campus the days leading up to my event. Oh, and we were also supposed to have a provider come, so a provider that works through Maine Family Planning come and provide additional information if students had it. Unfortunately, due to scheduling errors, we could not have the provider come, but I still think it was successful. So my evaluation discussion. So my evaluation had 3 different questions. The first question was, did you previously have knowledge about Maine Family Planning and the services they offer here in Machias? The second question, do you feel more informed about the services available to you through Maine Family Planning? And do you think having a recurring event like this would be beneficial to the UMM students? 93% or 92% of the students that responded said they had learned more about Maine Family Planning because of having this event. And 92% of students that responded also said that they think that an event like this would be beneficial to have reoccurring. Because, you know, it's college, so students come through every year. So, you know, yes. These responses helped Maine Family Planning to know that students would be more receptive to other events like this, and that our event was necessary for the UMM students to have that knowledge. These are some pictures from our event. If you can come over and look over, this is Marisa, so this was my community partner. She drove all the way from Waterville to be here, which was really cool. And then Sophie Bell, she's a student here on campus, and she was able to help me set up. And also, she was like, come here, come enjoy my table, kind of thing. So she was kind of helping me bring in people to, I don't know, visit my table. So I just wanted to put in special thanks to Marisa for, you know, helping me with my project, and her assistant, Jennifer. We had a lot of swag boxes and a lot of informational boxes that she put together. So that was really helpful. I wanted to give a special thanks to Hope Shore for helping me organize my event, and also just being like super cool. And I hope she stays for a good amount of time. I also wanted to thank Sophie and Maddie. So Sophie Bell helped me set up, and Maddie Jackson also helped me set up, and she was also kind of helping me attract attention to my table. And I kind of just wanted to also put a little thanks into for my mom. My mom was like super cool, and she does a really important job. I think everybody at Maine Family Planning does a really important job. She also just supports me in everything I do, so she's a really cool lady. And I also wanted to thank Dr. Lori, because she's, you know, just the coolest and very supportive about a lot of stuff. So yeah, if you do want to look at these things, they will be here later. Thank you.
Thank you. And the really cool thing, we're not running too bad over time. I said 3:30, it's 3:38, so we've almost hit our mark. And we're going to wrap up with Lauren, and Lauren has a guest with her. And you may recognize this picture on the posters.
Over here, well, that one's, I actually have two guests.
Oh, right, I forgot. You should come sit with her.
I can move here. This is a miniature him, and these are both of them, and that's a miniature him. That's a miniature him. So my project I've been working on for over a year, and it's it's a study on informal childcare in Washington County, Maine. My community partners were the UMM GIS Lab and Washington County Care Working Group, which consists of the Community Caring Collaborative and Downey's community partners. And when I say the Community Caring Collaborative, that's a collaborative, so it's associated with around 40 partners. My statement of need was there's a significant need for childcare or for formal childcare in rural areas. This study focuses on in Washington County, Maine. And in the winter of 2019, Maine participated in a bipartisan policy centers child care map gap analysis project. The results concluded a gap of 9.2 of children under 6 who are working or with working parents and lacking access to child care. Rural areas of the state saw the most significant gap in the need versus the supply. And this comes from the Child Care Plan of Maine in May 2021. So this project started out as an independent project with Downey's community partners and caring, community caring cooperative. To produce, well, first to identify the formal childcare, which I made a map in the GIS class, and identified all of the formal childcare in Washington County, Maine. The blue stars do not accept the CSSP, which is the Competitive Skills Scholarship Program, and the yellow stars do accept that program. And when you, it's linked onto a hybrid map, so when you go onto this link here, you can look at all of them, pick them out, and like manipulate the map because it's hybrid to see like the street it's on or what's beside it if you're looking for it. And then each one of these is connected to a little window that gives you all the information for that organization. So it has the phone number, contact, whether it accepts CSSP, their ranking, and the services provided, whether it's early childcare or late childcare. So I made this map in my GIS class with Amy Dowley and Dr. Tora Johnson assistants. I have been working on this project for the past year and designed a map existing of the existing childcare facilities in Washington County, Maine. The other part that it highlights is all the spaces where you could have childcare. So the second part of my project, or there's a quote here, and it's childcare provides the foundation for later learning and development and can improve school readiness outcomes. And that's by Brockhill, Munson, and Powell and Hall in 2015. My second part of the project is a survey design focused on obstacles and challenges for formal licensing. The survey was a 5 to 10 minutes brief survey to identify informal childcare providers to becoming formally licensed. The questions were designed to include how they got started and what supports they may need to become formally licensed. I had 9 people participate in our survey, and 4 people were open to interviews to be conducted at a later point. I didn't have time to do that part. Because the initial thing was to collect data, analyze the data, and then go back and interview those people to get a deeper understanding as to what their needs are. So I will be carrying this project on, but I wasn't able to finish it in this time frame. The survey results, 6 people consider themselves to be lifers in early childcare. 4 out of 8 were interested in becoming formally licensed. 3 out of the 6 participants reported needing help in the following areas: registering as a business, renewing licensing, paperwork and taxes, training to work with special needs children, and home renovations. I just want to explain the difference between formal care and informal care is licensing, support system, curriculum design, and the support of the state, as well as those people are then open to any child and can't be selective. So you know, if your grandma watches, she can say yes or no, and if you're a formal licensed parent, you take on all needs. So if there is a child with special needs, you need to meet those needs. And that has been some of the hesitation to some people becoming formally licensed. What I would do differently is, first of all, I had some major data burps in my collection of my survey, because I originally had 14 people who, there was a gas card that was linked to my survey. So there were 14 people who signed up for the gas card, but only 9 who gave me data. And because I am working with a collaborative and it was a relay of like, I finished this, I'm handing it on to you. And we're working with all sorts of partners. Those partners might have sent off the wrong link, but I'm not exactly sure. Plus Qualtrics, I'm not super familiar with and didn't collect the data as to who did what and when. So that would be a big change in my design if I were to go back and do it over again. But I was able to complete the project. The data collected is needed for the progression of the quality care in Washington County, Maine. Like I said, I lost some of my data, or participants skipped the survey and went on to collect the card. And the other part that I would change is the simplicity of the partners, because there was so much in trying to connect with everybody and make sure the times when I was, you know, hopping on to big, like the whole collaboration meetings and trying to meet with the same people, and our schedules were just nuts. So it was really hard. I even just had a partner talk to me like last week and like, where are we at? And I'm like, I'm dead. Or dead as we could be right now, but I shared the information. So so the challenge that I would like is to simplify my project, but overall it was pretty successful, and I'm happy with the stuff. And I want to say thank you to all my community partners, the University of Maine partners, our Dr. Lori Schieders, Dr. Lois Ann Kuntz, Dr. Tora Johnson, Amy Dowley, Community Caring Collaborative partners are Charlie Martin Berry. Down East community partners are Heather Malini and Tracy Collins. And the main roads of quality are Teresa Fisk partners, as well as Family Features Down East and all other members of the collaborative who assisted in the data collection, feedback, and distribution of this project. Thank you.
So to wrap things up, as I have said several times in this past hour and 45 minutes, you guys are amazing and these projects are amazing. I think your community partners are all so grateful for the things you've done and how you have made this work. I would like to invite people to email questions, because I think we probably need to wrap up the Zoom. If my Zoomies would hang on, I want to take a group picture before we eat cake. I wish I could send you some cake, but there's a cake over there that says, congratulations, you made it. And you did. And I know each of you are going to be successful as you move forward in life, and I hope you stay in touch. You're going to do amazing things. So well done, everybody. If the Zoomies would hold on, I think that wraps up the live stream. Thank you to those of you who have been watching. Okay, so 2 things. I've got to take this down. Forgive me for a minute. If we could all come over here in front of the wall that says University of Maine Machias. If somebody could hold one of those laptops and so we can have a group of the Zoom people in, probably that one over there, I think is one plugged in, and just put it on group.
I
did, I love it, just because I'm.
And I think for just the purpose of the picture, we can take our masks off.
We can hear my name.
That whole
Yeah.
Oh, the black and white, yeah.
Oh, this is the mic, huh? This is yours.